Not one, but two. But we're only gonna look at one, just so you know. I just took up these two computers as I'm gonna look at this one. I just wanted briefly to explain that eventually I will also feature the other one. And the only reason for this purpose is I just want to tell you that it's the same casing at least. So that out of the sight, let's take this away and let's focus on this one. And here we have it. So today's episode is about this, again, beautiful Olivetti personal computer, the M290. The other one I just had on top of this one is the same cabinet, it's just called M300. We'll take that in another episode. So let's focus on this one. So what do we see? It's dirty, but it's okay. So we have the logo over here, we have a key, I don't have the lock. There is a small emblem or whatever we're gonna call this, and it's stating 1.44 megabyte. That's for the 3.5-inch floppy disk. This is a key lock thing, there's nothing there, and this is what we see. Over here we have a few pictograms also. This seems to be for loudspeaker. This seems to be hard disk connectivity, sorry. This says reset, so I'm assuming this is a reset. Doesn't seem to move much. This is power, so there's another light, and this is on and off. So this is obviously on and off. There's a nice grill down here. We've seen this grill a few times on other computers. Never mind. If we twirl a little bit around, nothing to see here. The same goes for the other side. So therefore, let's focus a little bit on the back. There is some power in, some power out. This is a 220 to 240 volts. This is a fan, but I'm assuming this fan is in the power supply. I'm assuming this sits up here. Let me kind of like see if I can move in and see the number. I can't. So the only thing I can say, which goes for the other one, the casing model is XP1338. And over here, this seems to be a little bit loose. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slots. There's a thing over slot number 1, a thing over slot number 8. A card, which I will assume is most likely serial parallel. There is something that I will assume is VGA, but I seem to recall that I read somewhere this could be PGA or something, and some output and input and some dip switches all the way up there. We'll see once we get inside of this. And that's that. Rumor has it, this computer is not like the other Olivetti computers you have seen where you have a motherboard with slots you can put stuff in. It seems, the rumor says this is a computer where it's a computer on a expansion slot. So one of these cards up here should actually be a computer with CPU and RAM and memory control, keyboard controller, and I will assume also, I don't know, the graphics card. We'll see once we have opened this one up. Let's briefly just see, there's nothing to see in the bottom. Nope, it's heavy, so I assume absolutely there's a hard disk inside. Seems that there is a screw here, and besides that, 4 screws, so on each feet. So I'll take these 4 screws out and the screw in the back, which I then hope will gain us access to open the casing, and then we can have a look inside. Let's do that. That didn't give us much more view into the computer. Just want to say one thing that I find strange. I can't find anywhere to hook in a keyboard. There's no PS2 thingy, or there's not a DIN thing. So I don't know where to hook up the keyboard, but I'm assuming we'll figure that out once we have opened up more. I see 2 screws here. I think this is just some sort of shielding. And there we are. And I was right, it seems. This looks like a, or this one. Oh, I can't even see. Looks a little bit strange, right? But I think this is our start today. So we need to rip it out. I can't see anything from here. I assume this is an 8286 and the CPU is this one. So this must be the CPU board. And I also see some memory sticks down there. Yeah, BIOS chip over here. But I can't see where you hook up the keyboard. This is super weird. But down here there's hard disk. And on here I can see NEC or NEC. And up here I see the Panasonic model UY257 on this one. And just want to try to see if there's any fancy stuff we can see on the power supply. No, that's nothing. No, nothing date-wise or anything. So let me continue and let's rip out more stuff. So I see already that, which seems to be the CPU card, it hasn't been screwed in. So this could more or less be ripped out immediately. Let me just unscrew the other stuff so we can figure out how to get into this one. So let's rip out the first card. This looks like the graphics card. And it is. It's the typical Olivetti graphics card because this one is also from Paradise. We'll have a closer look at this later on. Just for now I can see the name is called GO467 and it says 02 1988. Next comes, let's try the CPU card. There must be lots of wiring going on, so I'm not sure how, if we can just dig it out like this. There's a wire up here, this looks like for a speaker. And another blue wire. I don't know what that is. That could be for something in the front of the computer. Let's see if we can get this off too. And there we go. Beautiful, right? So sadly we can't see anything because there's a heat shrink put on the CPU. It's an 8286, no doubt about that. And over here we have the BIOS I see. This looks like a Olivetti keyboard controller. So if that's a keyboard controller, where is the keyboard? Here we have some RAM. We'll have a closer look at this once I ripped everything out. There is no label on this card, although I obviously know there should be, but there's something floating around in here. Give me a second. See if I can dig it out with a small tweezer. There we go. Over time, these labels, they tend to fall off, and then I obviously glue them back together. So what does this one say? This says UC081, I think, maybe. 06 1988. I need to look up if UC181, 081 is for that one. Let me just, hold on a second. Olivetti always provides schematics for everything they have. So yes, so this is the Olivetti M290. So this is an 8286. This should be running at 12 megahertz. Should have 100 nanoseconds RAM with one wait state, slow RAM. And here we actually see UC081. So this is a system board. So this one I know belongs to this one. So I'll glue that back. Then we have the last card up here. This with all these ribbon cables. This must be the floppy disk and hard disk controller. So let's unhook these. And then there must be a power LED over here on this side. Sorry, up there. And that should make it possible for us to check it out, right? I can feel there's some plastic shielding on the back of this card. There we go. That's the plastic shielding I was talking about. That's because this is metal. So, what is this? This is called GO727, also from 1988. And what did I say? GO727. If we take this back, the GO727, that's the hard disk and floppy disk adapter. Lovely. They're usually from Western Digital when it's from so rebranded from Olivetti. So that is a Western Digital chip. It's actually called, let me get closer, wow. Maybe VD1006V-WAZ. I can't read it, it's very blurry. There we go. And what's left? Well, the backplane card sits down here, and we need to screw this one out. There's an AT power supply with the two connections for that. Can go out. Let's take the power for the floppy disk drive over here out also. I'm basically gonna rip everything out because I just want to clean the casing, as I used to do. So in order to get the power supply out, I think there are 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. Yeah, so I think so. Let me just do that. So with the 4 screws out, I just saw a small feature up here. There's a plastic window, and I can see the fuse from outside in there. So that's a, I would say, nice feature, right? So the question is, can I now lift this one up? It is obviously hooked to the on and off button in the front, so there must be some sort of mechanism to, yeah, I'll show it once this is ripped out. Let me just take the power for the hard disk, if I can. There we go. So, just briefly to explain. So in the front, there's this lever that moves forward and backwards, and there seems to be a spring on it. And that one goes into the power supply on the side and pushes in on this one, turn it on and off. So that's that. Now we can see if we can get this board out, the back plane. See 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. On we go. And out comes this board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 slots, and 3 of them are 8-bit. To my knowledge, I'm not sure. It doesn't state anything in the Olivetti pocket manual for it, but for the M300, the CPU card has to go in slot number 3. And this was also in slot number 3 in this one. So we just need to remember that. But this is called, again, super bad, IN108 from 1988. Let's see what the piece of paper is telling us. It's there. So the bus adapter IN108. Seems that we are almost done we just have all this in the front. So when I look at the hard disk, I can see it's screwed this way in. So in order to get the hard disk out, we need these 4 screws on the sides. Let me do that. And I will assume once I'm done that, somehow I can figure out to screw these screws out to get, no, it seems that, sorry. So 4 screws on the side and 4 screws in the front. That should take the hard disk out, and we should be able to take this unit out. So let me do all that. Everything has been cleaned, and I think we should have a little bit of talk about the cards, the floppy disk, maybe the hard disk, the power supply, but the cabinets over there, they're nice. So let me take the camera a little bit closer, and let's walk through some of the cards and the other equipments that we see. So let me arrange it. And just want to say that I found the battery, and it's not working, so needs to have new batteries in it. It was underneath the floppy disk controller, sorry, the floppy disk drives, so that's why I couldn't see it, but it's there. This was the back pain card, and this again was the IN108. Nothing much to say, besides when I hooked out the power supply, I said, oh, this is an AT plug. Let me just give you a warning, it's not AT. It's sadly, once again, Olivetti's own proprietary ways of dealing with power. And this time we're actually very lucky. So if I zoom in a little bit, maybe you can see VCC, -5 ground, -12, +12, VCC, and PG over here. So, not AT. So that means, even though there's one black, but there should be more blacks in the together here, but they're not. But nevertheless, they looked at the footage, and I know it's supposed to be this way around. So if I just briefly plug it in, so for other people, if they are losing, it's a white, red, orange with a red line in it, gray. This seems to be dark gray, maybe a dark brown gray thing, not sure. This has 2 colors again. This looks like black with orange. The other plug was black and green with black, I think. Purple. This is red with orange, just like one of the other ones over there. Now we have them all green, and this looks maybe all orange. So be careful with the power supply. We haven't tested it yet. No idea if it's working or not. I hope it is. I more or less have no components to fix any power supplies at the moment. So if it's not working, we'll just have to deal with it's not working for the moment. So, back pain, done. Graphics cards. This is the Paradise, and we figured out this was the G0467. This one holds the compatibility for supporting Olivetti's own 640 by 400 pixel. So it holds that. It also has CGA, and it also has EGA in it. So, and a very nice card. They have been seen everywhere in Olivetti's from that area. I shall make a dump of that character ROM BIOS over here. The way you configure the actual card is by these switches over there. And the first one means that it's, I hope you can see, should be on, off, 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 on in this case. So the first one says that this is the primary. You can have 2 graphics cards in this computer. This is the primary. Then the second one means that it's color. The third one has no meaning. And then the fourth and the fifth decides how the output is, so whether it's CGA or EGA, and in this case this is configured as EGA, and again the last one doesn't mean anything. So that's this beautiful card. There is the possibility to have some extension on the cards with the feature connector up here. 8 bits, not fast. Now comes this MFM hard disk and floppy disk controller. As we saw, this was the usual Western Digital. This is the Geo 727. Haven't really much to say about it. It supports 2 hard disks and 2 floppy disks. That's more or less it. The last card, which we most likely all have been eager to hear a little bit more about. Let me take the other cards away so they're not in the share. There we go. From what I have been able to look at, the memory out here. No, let's start up here. This is the feature connector for the front of the cabinet for displaying different kinds of activities. So that's this one. This is for the battery. Where did we have the battery? This one. So that went up here. These ones are memory sticks with the parity check, as you can see, and they hold each 1 megabyte. So this is 2 megabyte on this one. And I can't even remember. These are obviously the gate arrays from Olivetti's own branded, and they also have names. This is the EVA, and let's see, what is this saying? AT. So yes, so this is Adamo. This is the Intel 8286, and this was running at 12 megahertz. Over here you could put in a co-processor. This one over here is the 82C206, and yeah, logic gate arrays and stuff. This is the keyboard controller, sorry. This is the Olivetti branded serial parallel controller. And here we have the BIOS. I will also make a dump of this BIOS. This BIOS is the version 1.17. I think the newest BIOS for the Olivetti was, man, can I remember that now? Let me briefly cheat and find the cheat sheet. So this is, oh, I found it here. There we go. So we are on 1.17, and the newest one would be 1.34. But I will still make a dump of it and put it on my archive.org. This thing, haven't figured out what that is. So the question, this is the last board. The question is, how do we connect a keyboard? I managed to figure it out because this is the keyboard connector, keyboard controller. This is connected to this one. This connector is the one that we use on the Olivetti Keyboard 1, Keyboard 2, for Olivetti M24, 24SP, and so on. So this is actually old school Olivetti that goes in here. But it cannot be Keyboard 1 or Keyboard 2 because this is newer old style. How should I explain this? Let me find a keyboard. Let me take this away. So this is keyboard 1. That's the plug. And on keyboard 1 and on keyboard 2, I hope you can see it, the 5 connectors are on the top. The keyboard we need to have is this keyboard. This one. And in the back, this keyboard is the ANK 102. And that plug, let me just, there we go, is this one. You would say it's the same, but no, it's not. 4 connector on this top and 1 down there. That's the 5th one. So you cannot plug this keyboard into this computer. You have to have this specific keyboard for that computer. So that out of the way, we now know that we can actually hook up a computer to this, a keyboard to this computer. if it runs at all, right? So that was this plug over there. That kind of like concludes the tour of this card. Maybe I should just once again say this is UC081. There we go. A computer on a card. Next up was the, sorry I'm leaning in, was this pretty little weird 3.5 inch, kind of like double-sided hard disk. And doesn't really state much. It's an MFM hard disk with no bad sectors on it. And it seems to, I'm not sure, it says D3146H, and it's from NEC or NEC. I have no more specification than that on this hard disk, so we'll see how it works once we dig into the computer, put everything back. And the last thing is this Panasonic floppy disk drive, and these are the screws for the panel over here, for the side of the panel. Just don't want to lose them. And then the reason why I'm not keen of having Panasonic floppy disk is because there are 2 tiny screw holes that goes in there and over there. And it goes like this. So before I close this up, I just realized I forgot to clean the heads with IPA. So let me just very briefly clean them. There was no dust inside this one. I have cleaned the disk drive besides this one here, besides the 2 heads. So just want to show you the, I need a disk. I just want to show you the mechanism of this drive. So the mechanism of this drive is a little bit strange. I've never seen this one before. So it does this, and then it clicks down. And did you see this lifted softly down, the head? If I open it up, I close it again. Look at the head. Sorry. Did you see it? It was softly going down. I've never seen that one before. But there we go. So let me put the cover on again. It's not fun. There we go. And I will screw in the 2 tiny screws later on. They are super tiny. But that kind of like concludes the tour of the computer spread apart. As you can see, I have assembled everything back. I pre-tested, well, I opened the power supply and looked inside, and there's nothing there. It's all crispy and very nice. So I have no problem just hooking it into the computer and see if everything is running. I have no schematics at all for the computer. But I have a hinge that I wouldn't even be able to test the power supply without hooking in it to the board down here and having a CPU in it, because I think it needs to be turned on somehow via the CPU card. But I'm not sure. So nevertheless, I hooked it up to the power to the board the correct way. I hooked in the CPU card, the floppy disk controller, and hard disk controller obviously, and the floppy disk and hard disk controllers are down there. The floppy disk is hooked up, and just gonna put in this graphics card, this amazing Paradise EGA card. Only problem, sadly, this is a VGA plug. I currently don't own a EGA, PGA or VGA monitor besides the monitor for the Olivetti M290. And as you know, that's a high cable that is not compatible with this one. So I can't even, well, I can put it in and I will eventually, but I can't put it in and test it. So I was thinking, I have the Olivetti 280 in there should be also a original Olivetti Paradise graphics card. That should be a 16-bit card. So let me just get that one and see if we can fit it in there. Hold on for a second. There we go, I was right. I'm old, but I'm not that old. So in here we have yet another Paradise graphics card, and this one is called the GO481. This is a VGA. So let's just put this in here in order for us to test. Like this. I will take the Olivetti M290 out. And then we need to talk about the hard disk, because as we are aware of, there's no CMOS battery in the computer. It's over here. That means that everything has been wiped from the computer. It doesn't understand anything about time and dates, configuration for floppy disk controllers or hard disks. And before we put this in, we need to figure out what MFM type this one is. And I see no writings about, the heads and the cylinders and so on and so forth, but I know it's a NEC or NEC, and I got the model number here. So the model number is D3146H. And a quick trip to Google gave me cylinder 615, heads 8, track or sector 17, and the pre-com was 128. It's a 40 megabyte hard disk with a seek time of 35 milliseconds. So not the world's fastest one. And if we look into the documentation for the computer, the only thing that matches that, we have it over there, is it states 42 megabytes nevertheless. And it's this number. And if we have a look at this one, it's not the same number, but that's the closest one of all the supported hard disk for the BIOS in this one. So the settings needs to be 7 once we load up the computer. In order to get into the BIOS, I have pre-prepared a disk. The disk is with the setup system for configuring the BIOS for this computer. So you need a boot disk with the setup utility on it. So let me, off camera, just hook the hard disk in, and let's find a keyboard, which we have over here. And again, quickly, this is the ANK25102 that supports this computer. I will hook in the hard disk. I will take in the battery because there's a tiny bit of power left on it. I will leave it in there, and just so that we can have the settings stored, hopefully, and then I'll find a VGA monitor. So give me just a brief second and we shall be back. Let me maybe focus in a little bit on the monitor like this, right? So it's time for me to turn on the computer. I just want to say that this is not my computer. This is a friend. He's actually the chairman of the Danish Computer Society here in, obviously, Denmark. And I promised to take this one home and clean it out for him. He would like to try to work on it and have something about Turbo Pascal, trying to make some programs and stuff. He didn't know how to turn it on or how even to open it. So I hope that he's now able to see all that. I just need to say that I put in the battery over here. This is temporary. This needs to go out because eventually this doesn't work. And eventually this will leak also, so this needs to be taken out. I put in my VGA card, I put in the hard disk, it's connected. and I'm ready to turn everything on. So let's try. If I turn on the power on the back. I can hear the hard disk is spinning up. I see stuff on the screen now. It's slowly getting there. There's a keyboard error. Maybe I should hook in the keyboard. Sorry. Let me briefly hook up the keyboard and come back. And the keyboard is back in. Let's try again. Sorry for that. We can at least say that we have a success because the computer is spinning up. It sees the 2 megabyte that I saw on the processor card. It sees a hard disk. It sees the floppy disk. It goes into the boot of the floppy disk controller, and it's now starting the setup. So let's just have a brief look at the setup to see what that's all about. And I think I should maybe arrange the camera a little bit more, right? Maybe like this. I assume this will be flickering a tiny bit, but that's just due to the frequency of my iPhone camera. So this is the M290 system test. This is the version 1.1 from 89, sorry. And it's asked me to press enter to continue. And there we have it. I can report system configuration, I can go into setup utilities, I can test modules, I can run and edit test list, I can set test options, error log, hard disk utilities, and then I can just reboot. Let's go into point number 2, which is the setup utility. And as you can see, I've already been in here, so I have put in the date and the time, and I set up the Type 7 hard disk, which is 40 megabytes, and everything seems to be working. So not much to talk about in here. So let me just briefly go out. The only thing I haven't looked at is actually the hard disk. So let me take the floppy disk out, and let's see if we can boot on the hard disk. It is absolutely booting on the hard disk. Let me see if I can show like this. Or is it? The lighting on the floppy disk driver is still there. It's saying primary bootstrap. I saw for a brief moment the lighting go on and off here, so not sure. Let's try to reboot the computer, Control Alt Delete. I definitely can hear that the hard disk is doing stuff. Let me give you the mic closer up, and let's reboot again. So I think maybe you can hear that it's saying gadunk, gadunk, gadunk. So it's doing something. The heads are moving, but it doesn't continue. So I'm afraid this hard disk is sadly dead. But nevertheless, we have a working computer. We just need to fix the hard disk. But as it's not my computer, I can't do that. So let me wrap all this up. Let me put the casing, which is, I know you can't see it, but it's over here. Let me put the casing on it. We need to put this into the back. We need to put this one on the top. And then we can put in the cabinet. And let's then wrap it up. I'm just back for a tiny brief information that I just saw before we wrap this one up. So I put in the missing screw over there, as we saw in the beginning. So the CPU card also obviously has the screw. And I was about to put on this one, which is the top. And it needs to go this way because down here there are 2 screws which are down here. And then I noticed this one. This one is where the CPU card is. And I noticed when we opened the computer, this screw was in like this. And this was on top of it. This is wrong. This needs to be screwed out, then this needs to be put on, and the screw goes in there to the processor card. So I will also correct that mistake. I just wanted to tell you that so you know that. So see you in a bit. When I have computers that I need to fix for other people, I give them a USB stick with all the information. So in this case, Michael, you're getting all the images, the high resolution image for the computer. You are getting both of the BIOS dumps, and you're getting the setup disk on the USB that goes with the computer. And Michael, remember, you need to have this special keyboard for this one. You need to have a special monitor for this one. And you definitely need to remove the water battery. And maybe you need to F-disk and format the hard disk to see if that's working. It's not my computer, so I can't do any of these things, obviously. So let me just briefly start by copying the things to the USB stick for this project. So all my computers have a project on my computer, and then I can just copy it over. There we go. Obviously, I will also put up a selection of the images along with the 2 BIOS dumps from this computer. And I will also put the Olivetti M290 setup start disk up there with the files in it. For all of you who want to have a computer like this and want to work with it. I'm not sure why Olivetti made this kind of computer. The idea is actually nice. The cabinet is cool. It upholds the Olivetti standard from back then. And the idea with the CPU in the same casing means that when we later on, another day, will take out the M300, you'll see, I assume, it's completely the same thing. They have just put in another card. So that idea that you can upgrade your computer just putting in another card, that's a cool idea. But I don't understand why you so late 80s still are having an 82, 86 computer. I don't get it. It should at least start with a 386. But there we go. That's how it is. I would like to thank you, and you know, the YouTube stuff, this one if you liked it, or that one, please do subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. I hope to see you soon, and I really hope you enjoyed looking into this special computer from Olivetti. See you, and goodbye.